and welcome to Return to Regalia, an Underland Chronicles reread podcast. I'm Una.
And I'm Nate.
And today we'll be covering chapters 7 and 8 of The Marks of Secret, in which Gregor and Luxa fight some snakes.
Oh, yeah.
Where we left off, the squad had just found the Nibbler Sevian's dead body.
Tragic. Really bad start to a fun adventure. To a fun woods adventure.
A fun jungle adventure. Chapter 7 begins with Luxa rushing over to Sevian. Aurora explains that Sevian was the one who found her and Luxa in the jungle after Book 2. Luxa says, "I trusted her," and Gregor thinks this is the highest praise she could ever give, because she doesn't trust easily. He thinks Aurora, Ares, and maybe Nerissa make the list of people she trusts. Vicus probably doesn't make the cut, and Gregor thinks he himself is not on the list. Do you think that he's on the list of people that Luxa trusts?
Ooh, I mean, she later lets him follow her into the jungle. I feel like she wouldn't tell him, but it seems like, I feel like she doesn't even think he's on the list, but he's on the list.
I think so too. I think neither of them think that Gregor is on the list, but she kind of is. It just occurred to me that we are recording on the 4th of July and people will be setting off fireworks.
Oh, shit. This is why we hate the 4th of July.
This is, I guess, just going to be an extra patriotic episode.
Yes. We should pretend it's like explosions or something. Like maybe it's not the 4th of July. Maybe we just have a vinegar and baking soda incident happening in the background.
Yeah. Our science experiment is going wrong.
It's like Frankenstein in here right now.
Mm-hmm. Gregor and Ares say they're sorry about Sevian, and Luxa wonders who killed her and why she sent the crown. Aurora says the four of them have to go to the jungle to investigate. Gregor thinks about how Aurora barely ever speaks around him, and he doesn't know her very well. This is like the most that we've ever heard from Aurora. She, in the past 3 books, has had like maybe 2 or 3 lines per book. I feel like she's very, I don't know, she doesn't have a whole lot of a character, just because we don't hear from her a lot.
Does she get more lines later? I don't remember.
I don't know. She's kind of just there to be Luxa's friend. I am struggling to define Aurora's personality, like, outside of Luxa.
That's very true, and she doesn't really have a motivation outside of Luxa either.
Yeah, she's kind of just there, hanging out. Luxa says Gregor should go home if he's not up for the jungle trip, basically calling him a coward and daring him to join. Gregor says, "You and Aurora in the jungle? That didn't work out so well last time."
He's not pulling any punches today.
Right? That's a low blow. Luxa tells him they don't want his help anymore, and she calls him Overlander instead of Gregor. I love the way that she's, like, distancing herself from him by calling him Overlander. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is kind of similar to how in, they have a scene in Curse of the Warmbloods after Luxa almost lets Gregor die in the quicksand. Gregor, like, goes into the woods and finds her, and she's, like, up in a tree or up in the vines, and they're having this conversation, and Gregor is, like, I think thanking her for, like, saving Boots' life in Book 2. And Luxa is like, "No, you don't owe me. That was Temp that saved her." And she's, like, basically trying to say, like, we don't owe each other anything. We're not connected at all. We do not have to be in debt to each other. But, like, you are, Luxa and Gregor. Like, you guys are so entwined. And this is just her, again, trying to, like, distance herself from him, like, try and make them more separate, especially calling him Overlander. Like, that is specifically calling out the fact that they are not from the same world.
That's true. Like, she could call him Warrior, but no.
Yeah. And I feel like that would have a similar effect, but by calling him Overlander, she's, like, alienating him.
Yeah.
And that's what she's trying to do, is trying to be like, you don't belong here, I belong here. Like,
that's fun. Yeah.
I really love everything about her calling him Overlander instead of Gregor. Because Ares also calls Gregor Overlander. That's true.
But I feel like that's more like when we call Lola Animal instead of her name. It's like, it's just an affectionate, it's a pet name.
Yeah, I feel like when Ares does it, he's doing it out of respect.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to be so personable. It's kind of similar, actually, because, like, Ares and Gregor are also entwined in the way that Luxa and Gregor are entwined. Mm-hmm. But Ares, he's not, like, denying their bond, but he is, I don't know, like, by calling him Overlander, Ares is putting Gregor on a bit of a pedestal.
It reminds me of, like, calling your teacher sensei or a knight calling their guy that they're knighting for, my liege.
Yeah.
Like, stating, like, this is our relationship, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that when Ares calls Gregor Overlander, it's not to alienate him. It's more like, you're different from me in a way that makes you more powerful than me.
Yeah, like, you're the boss, man.
Yeah, like, you being an Overlander is special, and it's cool that I get to be your bond, because you're, like, a special guy.
Aw, that's sweet. Ares calling Gregor Overlander is just his way of saying, you're my special little guy.
Yeah, really.
Wow, people are really happy this year.
I feel like we haven't even heard the beginning of it yet.
Yeah. No, last night when I was driving to Illinois, Molly and I were like seeing fireworks out the window.
I was hearing fireworks last night, and I'm like, it's fucking tomorrow,
right?
You guys.
Like, come on.
Can you not wait 24 hours? Anyway, Luxa tells Ares that he can come find her and Aurora after he takes Gregor home, and they take off. I love that Luxa is like mad at Gregor, but she's like, Ares, you're cool. Like, you can go take him home and then come join us later. Like, first of all, assuming that Ares would do that.
Yeah.
Second of all, just like, you're invited, but your bond isn't, you know?
She's handing out invitations to her birthday party in front of Gregor and not giving him one.
For real. The narration says, man, Luxa could get under his skin. She knew he'd help her out in the jungle if she asked. Why did she have to turn the whole thing into an insult, a dare? Why does she feel the need to antagonize him?
What a question.
Why does his unwillingness to go to the jungle offend her so much?
Are you rhetorically asking this or legit asking
Well, I'm guessing, I think that this has something to do with, like, she really likes him.
Yeah, okay.
And they're really forming this, like, deep friendship now. Mm-hmm. Like, before this book, I feel like they were just kind of, like, quest partners.
Uh-huh.
Like, they owed each other their lives, but they didn't know each other that well.
That's true.
But now they've been hanging out on the reg, and I think Gregor and Luxa are very much in like with each other. And Luxa really wants to be able to, like, rely on Gregor, and when he doesn't, like, meet her expectations, that's like, she's like, that's your problem.
I see what she's saying, what you're saying.
I don't know if that's supposed to be true or if it's just that Luxa is upset right now. But
I feel like a little bit of both.
Yeah. They just remind me, John and I were talking about this last episode, they remind me so much of Percy and Annabeth. Like, Annabeth has similar moments where it's like Percy doesn't do the right thing that she wants him to do, and she just, like, gets mad and is like, why aren't you, like, following my plan?
Right. Why aren't you reading my mind? But not like that. Like, I had such high hopes for you and you are disappointing them.
Yeah.
And that means that I was wrong and now I'm upset.
Yes. Luxa and Annabeth don't like being wrong. Yeah. After that, there's this funny bit where Ares points out how dangerous the jungle is to Gregor to imply that Luxa and Aurora will need their help. And he adds that Luxa is just being mean because she's upset. Gregor says, look, Ares, we both know we're going. Let's just give it a few minutes so it looks like it was hard for you to talk me into it, okay?
I love that Gregor is, like, annoyed at Luxa for making it into a whole thing, but he also was like, no, we need to make it look like you had to convince me.
Yes, he's, like, playing along in this elaborate ritual of, like, well, she can't know that I care this much. Yeah. I always thought this part was so funny that he, like, angrily shouts, like, Ares, we both know we're going. Like, just chill.
Ares is literally his wingman.
I was just about to try and make a joke about that. I'm glad that you said it. Gregor thinks they should do something with Sevian's body, and they end up hiding her in a crevice in the rock. Then Gregor finds a small mark on the ground where Sevian was lying. Later, we learn that it's a scythe, but right now, Gregor thinks it looks like a flamingo's beak.
She was trying to write Rachel.
Stop! I think I was subconsciously thinking about that, though.
No, because I was trying to draw it out how it looks like, and it's kind of described as, like, almost a pea, basically. I'm like, yep. She was trying to write Rachel.
Yeah, I think in the back of my brain, I was probably thinking about that scene from
Yes.
BBC Sherlock.
In your heart.
Yeah, where my middle school self lives,
Yes.
deep down. Gregor wonders if Sevian was trying to scratch out a word because the mark looks like an unfinished P, and Ares points out that it could also become an R or a B, and Gregor thinks of Ripred and the Bane. If Sevian was trying to write a name before she died, she would have had to have seen her attacker and recognized them, and both Ripred and the Bane are very recognizable.
True.
Ares asks, has enough time passed for me to have convinced you to go to the jungle? And they take off. I love that Ares is just like humoring Gregor. He could have just been like, no, we have to go catch up to them right now, or like we'll lose them or whatever. And no, Ares is just like, fine, I'll let you play this little game.
That's so true. He's such a bro.
Yeah. They catch up to the others and Gregor and Luxa glare at each other. When they reach the jungle, the air becomes humid and the stone ground turns to plants. They arrive at the spring near the Nibblers' home that they stopped at in Book 3. Luxa calls out to the Nibblers, but no one emerges to meet them. Luxa orders them into a line with Gregor at the back, and she calls him Overlander again. Gregor thinks about arguing with her, but it does make sense for her to take the lead since she knows the area. He drops it and gets in line when he remembers she just lost a friend. The group goes to the cave in which Hamnet fixed Aurora's dislocated wing in Book 3, and they find it overgrown and deserted. They check other caves, with no luck, and Luxa says, at best I expected to find the Nibblers as we left them, at worst suffering the aftermath of a battle. But that they have vanished without explanation is most disturbing.
You hope there was a miracle.
Probably not. Gregor suggests they moved out, but Luxa doesn't think so, because they were driven out of their previous home by rats, and they were barely surviving here. Ares thinks maybe they joined the mice who live by the fount, but apparently Luxa's Uncle York, Howard's dad, who runs the place, wouldn't let in any new Nibblers.
Classic situation. No, we're not taking refugees. You have to go back and die.
Yeah.
I like how they don't really linger on that. It's just like, yep, that's how it is. The humans who moved in are like, no, we actually can't give you any more food. Sorry.
Yeah, Luxa says, she explains it as like, the land will support no more. So the idea, I guess, is that there's no more space, there's no more resources for these mice, but it does beg the question of like, okay, but if more mice are in search of a home, like what are you doing to help them get somewhere else? If this is not the right place, then like where?
Right.
Yeah, they don't linger on that very much.
Yeah, because I feel like Luxa has this neat answer, but I'm like, no, I feel like we're supposed to think about that more. Like, but just they say it as like, oh, nothing we can do, but it's like, well, can you?
Yeah, we don't really get the details about that. With no language skills to ask around about what happened, they decide to head home. Then the bats warn them about something moving on either side of them, and Gregor sees the vines undulating. They start to hurry toward the exit of the clearing, but vines have woven themselves over the path. Gregor slices through the vines with his sword and something lunges at him. The chapter ends with Gregor cutting the creature in half and yelling, "Snakes!
Snakes!" One short thought. Like, clearly the snakes are trying to stop them from leaving, but it would be really funny if the snakes were trying to totally be chill and they block the path, and then Gregor just whips out his sword and kills a bunch of them, and they're like, dude, what the fuck?
That's the thing I was thinking about, too, because Hamnet in Book 3 talks about how a lot of things in the jungle don't want to fight you. But Gregor does make the first move here.
Right.
You know, like, they're all getting scared about the snakes surrounding them, but, like, that didn't necessarily mean that Gregor had to pull his sword.
That's true. Gregor, was there a nonviolent solution for this?
Yeah, exactly.
Dang, that's true. I wonder... Because, yeah, we never really find out what the snakes wanted with them, unless we do, and I forgot. But the snakes pretty much try to stop them from leaving.
Yeah, anyway. I'm guessing that it's just because, like, they're in their territory or whatever. But, like, maybe the snakes just, like, came to check them out and...
Yeah.
Like, they got scared, but, like, who's to say they couldn't have, I don't know, found another path or something.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah, they could have just turned around.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chapter 8. The group retreats to stand on a flat rock. Snakes of every size surround them and start to attack from all sides. As Gregor fights, he feels his Rager mode kicking in, and he notices he has better control and awareness than he's had in the past. I wonder if he's been practicing, like, we know that he's been practicing echolocation with Rip Red, but I wonder, I guess he goes to training in the arena. We don't see that exactly in this book, but, like, Boots is training in acrobatics.
Yeah, I think there's a point where he mentions that, like, they're not doing blood balls today, and he's happy about that.
Yeah.
So that makes it seem like sometimes he is doing sword training.
Yes, I can imagine, probably. So I wonder if he's, like, kind of practicing his Rager mode, like, he's microdosing on Rager mode while they're in training, and that's how he's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he's just, like, getting older and that is giving him more control over it. I don't know.
I feel like the first thing probably.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just like, well, time has passed. He's leveling up.
Yeah, but I guess most likely he's been practicing some level of combat.
Yeah.
Luxa and Gregor defend the bats, but the snakes close in around them. They retreat to the cave, and Gregor knows it's only a matter of time before a snake makes it past their defenses. Gregor wishes Rip Red were here and wonders what he'd do in this situation. Gregor fights his way back to the flat rock and begins to spin in place with his sword in one hand and his torch in the other. He lets the Rager mode take over, and soon the number of snakes lessens. It takes Luxa blocking his sword with her own to snap him out of it. Her sword breaks in two, and Gregor goes reeling into the vines, which is pretty wild.
Yeah. Damn. Like, theoretically, if her sword hadn't broken, would he have tried to fight her?
Ooh, I don't know.
Or, like, I guess...
I think it was just to snap him out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the shock of it.
It is wild, though, that she had to put her sword out. I'm
Right.
assuming that, like, she called his name
Right.
first and was like, Gregor, stop spinning, and that didn't work.
It would have been funny if she just tripped him.
Yeah. Well, she would have had to get close enough to do
true.
that.
Rip Red would have tripped him. Rip Red would have whipped that towel out and...
Yes.
Like, fucking psych.
Absolutely. Gregor is extremely dizzy, and he thinks he pukes, but doesn't remember.
I have a factoid to share here. So we know that Rip Red spins and doesn't get dizzy. And when I took ballet for a few months, they showed us the technique to do this, which is you have to, like, basically you have to choose a spot to stare at, and then you have to whip your head around every time you turn so that you're always staring at that spot, basically. And it's hard to do even really slowly.
In book 5, Rip Red literally says that to him.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
That's literally one of their lessons when, like, Solovet asks Gregor if he has a Rager spin attack, and Gregor's like, I can spin.
Has he a Rager spin attack? Asked Solovet. Haven't seen it if he has, said Rip Red. He runs mainly on nerves and is still easily distracted. I can spin, objected Gregor.
And Rip Red is like, but how dizzy do you get, though? And then they have a lesson, and at this point, I think it's after Gregor has been locked in the dungeon, and he, like, he breaks through the echolocation thing.
Oh, right.
So Rip Red, like, teaches him how to do it in the dark, too, with sound. Mm-hmm. So that's funny that you forgot that, but yes, that is part of it.
He's so graceful. I'm just imagining him, like, remember to smile, Rip Red. Keep your posture good. Or not smile, but, like, you have to make sure that you're facing the audience because they're here to see your face.
Aurora picks Gregor up with her claws and puts him on Ares' back so they can all fly away. Eventually they land, and Gregor sits on the ground to recover. Luxa gives him water in her cupped hands, which is very tender.
Yeah, true. Especially knowing that he could puke again at any time.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I guess there's nothing else to use as a cup, but, like, it's very intimate, just, like, letting someone drink out of your hands.
Yeah, dang.
There's something poetic about that.
Yes.
Anyway, that helps Gregor calm down. Ares asks if he's ill, and Gregor says he just got dizzy earlier. Luxa asks, your mind, it is calm? Gregor admits he actually feels pretty good, like getting a buzz after running in track. He asks why they're concerned, and when no one answers him, he asks what's wrong. Aurora says, when you fought, it was as if something had possessed you. Your face changed. You made sounds that were not human. Which is really scary.
Yeah.
I think I skipped over the part about him, like, making sound, but, like,
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
That is weird. Yeah. Like, what sound would you, like, a growl?
Yeah, but like the fact that Gregor doesn't remember any of what they're saying about him
Yeah.
is like really creepy, and it's probably very unsettling.
Right. And for them, when he's just like, yeah, guys, I feel good. And they're all like, oh, no.
Yeah, they're all just side-eyeing each other like, are you gonna tell him? Maybe you should. Gregor tries to dismiss this as being a Rager thing, but Aurora says this wasn't the same as when she saw him hit the blood balls in Book 2. Luxa agrees, saying it wasn't like when he fought the ants in Book 3 either.
They've got sources to cite.
Yeah. She tells him, you seemed to be enjoying it. Gregor is offended by this, and Luxa begins to explain, but he interrupts and says they should get home. As they fly, Gregor asks Ares what he did. Ares says he fought well, like Rip Red, and Gregor says that's exactly what he was thinking about. The narration says, why was he excited? The whole thing had been a terrible, bloody encounter. It must just be the relief of having survived it. Or was it something else? I like that. Okay, I think it's an interesting character development trait thing that Gregor is like afraid of what he'll do with the Rager power, and I think it's valid, but it's also giving me a little bit of like in Supernatural. when they're like, Sam, are you gonna become evil because you're drinking demon blood or whatever? And Dean is like, there's something dark inside you or whatever. But like, we know that Sam's not gonna turn evil.
Yeah, true.
Like, we know that you're not actually bad. You just do scary things sometimes. So it's a little bit like not. It doesn't hit as hard as it would if
that's true.
There was a possibility of Gregor like actually becoming evil.
I feel like if this was Hunger Games, it would have been like, oh shit. If there was a moment where they were like, Gregor Everdeen, you enjoyed spinning and killing all the tributes.
Yeah. Ooh, has anyone written that AU yet?
I am almost certain of it.
If no one has written the Gregor Hunger Games crossover yet, like, what are we even doing?
Right? What are we? We need to like just jump into the ocean. No, let's be more positive.
So yeah, just the fact that he's thinking like, oh, it's so creepy that I was smiling and I enjoyed it and I'm excited about like how well I fought, and does this mean something is like wrong with me or whatever? And it's like, I get it. Like, he's 12 and he doesn't understand this power that he has.
We've all had that moment where we're 12 and we don't understand our powers.
Classic 12-year-old behavior. So it's not exactly like Sam in Supernatural potentially turning evil, but it reminded me a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Of like, no, Gregor, you're not gonna turn evil. You're fine. Gregor asks Ares why Luxa said that he seemed to be enjoying fighting, and Ares reveals that as Gregor fought, he began to smile, which is very creepy.
Yeah.
Gregor hates the thought of this because he doesn't like to fight. Ares tries to reassure him by saying, Overlander, do not make too much of this. Everyone knows being a Rager is not a choice. Only it took us by surprise to see you so, as we know you do not revel in death. That's nice of Ares to be like, don't worry, like, we know that you're not evil.
But, like, I feel like he's also, it feels like he's reaching a little bit. He's trying to walk it back. Because they all were like, Gregor was, I guess they technically were, like, checking up on him. They were like, dude, are you okay? And he was kind of the one who took it to, like, there's something wrong with me because I smiled. But I don't know, it feels kind of like, everybody's like, Gregor, why did you smile? That was weird. And then Ares is like, no, it's cool. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Ares is definitely going to be keeping an eye on this, even if he doesn't mention it to Gregor again.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit like Gregor got offended and his friends were just trying to see what was up. But I don't know. I think Ares does like an okay job of reassuring him here.
Yeah, I guess I'm just more convinced by Gregor's thoughts that now he's going to be thinking about this. And I did not think of the Sam thing. That, like, no, of course Gregor is not going to be an evil sadist in, like, the last 2 books.
Right.
Hilarious plot twist that would be.
Yeah. I don't think it even, like, becomes a thing. Like, I don't know, in other stories where there's like a fatal flaw in the hero and they like almost succumb to temptation or whatever, like I don't think that Gregor really has a moment like that.
That's true. Yeah, like he's still, even after this, he's still like, they still have to be like, Gregor, you need to keep fighting. And I feel like especially in the last book, it doesn't seem like there's any moments where he enjoys fighting.
Yeah, no.
That I remember.
Yeah, this fear of his that he'll become this evil sadist doesn't really go anywhere. It's just kind of like in the background, and in book 5 he has bigger problems.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to keep thinking about that as we go forward. I can't remember exactly if it comes back or not. But anyway, Gregor turns off his flashlight so he can contemplate things in the dark, which is like, that's never a good place to contemplate things.
Yeah, true.
Contemplating things in the light is almost always better. The narration says, his post-battle exhilaration drained away, leaving him feeling empty and quietly afraid of himself. The phrase, empty and quietly afraid of himself, is just like killer.
Yeah.
I love the use of the adverb quietly here, because they tell you not to use too many adverbs, but if you use them right, they can be very effective.
Exactly. I've heard that unexpected adverb is good. Like,
yes.
smiled sadly.
Yes, exactly. It means more when the adverb is like contradicting the thing, like truly modifying. Like, I don't know, the word quietly is adding something there that is like, he feels isolated. He doesn't want to share it with anyone. He feels very alone.
I feel like it goes back to what you said about Sam Winchester. It's like he's not gonna like make it a whole big thing that he like agonizes over and kind of like is like, oh, I'm such a fucking hero for feeling like this. It's just like gonna linger in the back of his mind. He doesn't want to think about it, but it's there.
Like it just is gonna stick with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to talk to Ripred and wonders where he and the Bane could be. The bats drop Gregor and Luxa off so they can climb the stairs back into the old nursery. As they do, they hear footsteps coming down the hall. They set their swords on the stairs, shut the turtle shell, and pretend to be asleep. Except Gregor forgets to turn his flashlight off, which, rookie move. And Vicus and Howard come in to wake them up. Apparently everyone has been searching for Luxa and Gregor in their absence. Luxa jokes that she was showing Gregor the nursery and dozed off when he started telling a tale about his bravery in the labyrinth. Gregor plays along and complains about Luxa going on about how hard it is to be the queen. Vicus says he'll get Marith to call off the search and asks, "What would you have me tell the council, Luxa?" She replies, "Something very dramatic. Tell them I sneaked out at night, evaded the guards, and ran off to the jungle."
Literally queen. Like, she is the queen, but queen.
She's so... I don't know, this is like such a silly thing to say, but like, she's just doing it for her own amusement.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, if this goes bad, it goes bad. Like, if they see through her lie, which Howard does in a little bit here, like, it's gonna be bad. So there's no positive aspect of her telling the truth as if it's a lie, except for her own amusement. Like, she's just saying it to be like, oh, isn't that so funny? I tricked Vicus by saying the thing that we actually did.
That's so funny. It's like a little joke with her and Gregor too, which is funny because it pisses him off.
Yes, yeah. That's called hubris, Luxa.
Ooh, about to get hubed. Hubed by your own bris.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Vicus just says, "Yes, very witty," and leaves. But Howard sticks around and says Luxa's story about the jungle would explain one thing. He takes a piece of vine out of Luxa's hair, and Luxa tries to say she got it when she visited the fields yesterday. Howard clearly doesn't believe them, but he smiles and leaves. He's a real one for that.
Yeah.
Later, when Gregor goes to get some lunch with everyone, Marith barges in to announce that some scouts pulled a basket out of the river that runs from the fount. The chapter ends with Marith opening the basket and revealing its contents, 6 squirming baby mice.
Yes, I did read like a couple pages ahead just because I love whenever there's baby mice in the book.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Well, I did now that you mentioned the basket floating down the river full of babies, I did pull out my copy of the Old Testament, which I was previously using to flatten my poster of Beef from the movie Phantom of the Paradise.
I was wondering, because before we started recording, you said that you were reading up on your Bible and doing some research, and I was like, what part of this is biblical? It's the very end.
Yes. Yeah. And I honestly, I didn't, like, it's actually a really short passage where, like, from Moses being born to him growing up is like 2 paragraphs. And honestly, I didn't find anything that like was super like, whoa, the parallels, the hidden meanings. But I think it is funny how much this corresponds to that story from the Bible, which is Exodus verse 1, chapter 21, chapter 1, verse 21.
I think it's chapter 1, verse 21.
Okay, sick. Yeah, I don't know. One funny thing about that story is that, or like the shortened version of the story is like Moses gets put in the basket, the Pharaoh's daughter finds him and raises him as her son. But the actual version of the story is that Moses' mom puts him in the basket, and while it's floating down the river, his older sister follows the basket. And when Pharaoh's wife finds the basket, his sister steps out and is like, "Hey, do you want me to find a Hebrew wet nurse for the kid?" And the Pharaoh's daughter's like, "Sure." And then Moses' sister goes and gets his own mom, and she just raises his Moses until he's like ready to go to the palace.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Just like fucking 5D chess over here from Miriam.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I only know this story because I watched Prince of Egypt,
Nice.
the movie, so I don't think they do that in that movie.
No, I don't think they do.
Interesting.
I literally can't remember if I've watched that movie or not.
We should watch it. It's
Yeah.
pretty fucking good.
I would be down.
We used to play the soundtrack in orchestra in high school.
You played so much cool shit in your orchestra in high school.
Yeah, we had an amazing orchestra director.
That's cool.
Shout out to Mr. Olson.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, didn't they steal the story of Moses being the baby on the river, and they like gave that story to Jesus later?
Oh, did he? What happened? Jesus was born in the...
Well, it's like everyone kills all the babies after Jesus is born because they want to kill Jesus.
That was apparently... No, I was reading this in my book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Apparently that was possibly a real historical event called Massacre of the Innocents, where King Herod was like, kill all the babies, and then Jesus survived. So the guys in Holy Blood, Holy Grail said that was not made up, but I don't think we actually know if that event was made up.
Interesting.
So anyway, in a summary, yes, you're correct, I think, maybe.
I seem to remember in the Catholicism episode of the One Flesh, One End podcast,
fuck yes.
They were talking about how Christians like took the story from somewhere else and applied it to Jesus.
That, I would believe that.
Anyway, doesn't fucking matter.
But as it applies to Gregor also took this story from somewhere else and applied it to 6 baby mice.
Well, I was thinking about the river, because the river like goes through Regalia, and it's like the palace is right on top of it, and like below the palace are the docks, and like you can go into the waterway. And I was thinking about, you know, there's so many Greek mythology references.
Ooh,
and like a big underground river, that's like the river Styx.
Yo,
And it just is like the entrance to the underworld.
that's cool. If the baby mice hadn't been caught at the palace, where would they have kept going to? Would they go to that fucked up like basin thing that's all swirly?
I think that they would have ended up in the waterway.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if the river that runs from the fount that they found the babies in actually goes, like, if that's the same river that the palace is on top of. I'm not sure. I guess I always assumed that it was just the one big river. Because later in this book, they collapse the river and it, like, floods.
Oh shit, I forgot about all that.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
But if someone knows more about Underland geography than me, please write in. But yeah, I like the idea of the river in Regalia being the river Styx.
Yeah. No, I was thinking because like if the baby mice weren't caught, would they have died? I mean, I assume yes.
Yeah, I think that they probably would have ended up in the waterway at some point.
And just starved to death. Really sending your babies down the river in a basket is really a high risk, high reward activity.
Well, Luxa, I think, addresses that later, is that like a mother would have only done that if the alternative of like keeping the babies would be more dangerous than putting them on the river.
True.
And that's like her evidence of like something bad happened to the mice at the fount also.
Okay, yes, that makes... Oh, right, because this river comes from the fount, so now that they know that that's not safe either.
Yes. And
okay.
after this, they go to the fountain to check things out.
Nice.
Yeah. I do love, though, I wanted to talk about how Howard just like totally knows that Luxa is like lying, and by that I mean she's telling the truth, but she's pretending that it's a lie. First of all, later we're gonna learn that, okay, the bat that delivered the crown to Luxa, who got it from
Sevian?
Yeah, Sevian. So Sevian gave the crown to Hermes the bat.
Okay.
Hermes takes the crown to Luxa, and Luxa is like, don't tell anyone. But Hermes doesn't know not to tell anyone, and Nike hears from Hermes that Luxa got the crown, and Nike was there when Luxa made the promise to the mice, so Nike knows what's up, and Nike and Howard are like best buds now.
Right.
So she tells Howard, and now Howard knows what's up.
That's so funny.
And Howard basically is like looking at Luxa in this scene and being like, I know what you're up to.
That's really funny. Does that get put together officially for us, or is that just something... Okay, nice.
Yes, yeah. Later, Howard says, like, Nike heard it from Hermes, and she told me the significance of the crown.
Nice.
And Howard just, like, makes it his business to, like, keep Luxa from going off on a dangerous mission.
Oh, right,
and he's
right.
like, oh, well, we're coming with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Classic Howard. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's gonna happen in the next couple chapters, I think.
Yay. I like the little bit from the scene where when Howard picks the vine out of her hair and Luxa says it's from the farm. He's like, I don't recognize this. Which plant is it? And she's like, well, I don't know yet. I'm learning to identify them.
Yeah. She's like, well, that's why I need to spend so much time in the fields, is because I need to learn. Yeah, she's so funny. Thanks so much for joining me, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Next week's episode will cover chapters 9 and 10. So we're going to conclude part 1 and go right into part 2.
Oh, heck yes.
Next episode. Find us on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube at Return to Regalia, all one word. Thank you for listening, and until next time, fly you high.
Fly you high.